of all the letters which create instability issues with Fraktur, I think that the principal one is the letter A. So I'm going to run through a series of letter A's, and there are masses and masses of these representations of this letter throughout the Middle Ages in Germany and the German-speaking countries. But of course, the biggest issue with the letter A is we see that's what we see for a non-German speaker. And in Germany, this was the letter A. Of course, we see this as a U. But historically, Textualis Quadrata would have used, and I'm just rushing through this because I want to get on with the letters, this for the A and this for the U. So in Germany, that would be the A, and the corresponding U would be that. So it's a little bit of a problem. So what I'm suggesting is looking at alternate forms of the A. So from here, we can see how this would turn into this, which is great, because once you can see it, you can start to work around it. Now, I'm not really going to show any Fraktur A's per se, as in a sort of historical Fraktur basic alphabet. What I am going to show you are Romanized Fraktur A's so that you have some variations to work with. So, of course, we also have this A. Sorry, I'm still getting over not being well. I'm still not quite well, but there's only so much you can do with just not doing anything. So from here, we can produce this to this to that. Of course, we see this, and we want to represent this A. This is a really great representation of the letter A. Keep this sticking out because you need a sort of, you need these little lines to produce this kind of Fraktur, and then you need a balance on that side. You can also do this. So remember the little square. So let's make the little square more into a slightly longer square, so it's more like a rectangle. And we're going to come from a corner, and we're going to go over and around and down, and then we're going to lean this stroke and cross there. And you can see how that starts to become more sort of Romanized in its structure. Some of the more complex A's are now I'm using a Zig Calligraphy 2 marker. Ideally, I generally don't work with markers. I would normally work with a quill or a dip nib like a Speedball C series nib, or possibly a William Mitchell round hand nib, or a tape or browser nib. But these, I'm doing this just for so that if you really wanted to start looking at this, obviously, like I said before, don't start with Fraktur, start with Textualis Quadrata, then move into Fraktur. But I'm using the Zig marker because it's, there's not a ton of ink to play with, and it dries fairly quickly. So I'm going to start really playing with these letters now. Notice I've changed the angle a little bit. So this is, remember I told you to keep the axis upright. This gives an apparent tilted axis. And by looking at this shape, we can fiddle with this shape and take this A with some of this shape plus this flourish and starting to play with them. So we know that we're looking for something more like this. So we need a crossbar. We need this sort of angle, but we need it to sort of kind of feel like that. So let's take this. So we have this, and we have this, and we have that. Let's expand that into something. So of course, you know, this kind of understanding comes from an understanding of three different structures: a Roman capital letter, a Textualis Quadrata letter, and the base shapes used in Fraktur flourishing. So let's start here, because I'll need some space for this. And remember, you still want to keep this upright. So this feels quite wide to me. So I would want to sort of squeeze this in a little bit. So let's move that in and move that in. Now, there is nothing to stop you in this stage from plotting this in. And I did a little semi-quadrata structure there. And I want to keep this inside of the A, so I would probably bring this down and make this much more swooping. So it'd be a much bigger shape here, into there, into there, and into there with this here. See, you're really starting to see how the letter would be built up if you took your time to do it. And let's do it with a scroll and brush, because obviously, you know, it's more complicated. So there we have a basic construction for that, slightly more decorative. And of course, you know, you do have the ability to go back in and add some technical geometric flourishing. All right, so I hope that gives you some really good letter forms to play with. Just remember, take your time with it, do some research, don't just jump into it and then it doesn't work and you get upset and you damage the tools.